are the source of many spiritual bounties and blessings to the friends. The believers, they add to the luster of the teaching activities and kindle the fire of love in the hearts of the believers and eliminate the darkness of misunderstanding and activity and bestow joy and fervor to the dispirited and hope and comfort to the despondent. And of course, as we know, they're all over the planet. And lastly, it says, this is the universal house of justice, adding this about the board members and the assistants and how they should really persevere in their activities. I just pick it up in the middle. Should they fulfill all of these conditions and report regularly to their national spiritual assemblies, these board members and assistants will observe what stirring, what eagerness, what fervor, what warmth and fire will become manifest among the beloved of God through them, and what achievements, victories, and glory will be the share of these blessed institutions. Well, I think that's enough. There's a great deal more. Of course, the whole idea of the program is to get you to study, more about it. I remember, again, when I was on pilgrimage, a marvelous experience. Beloved guardian said one night, I wasn't an auxiliary board member and didn't know I was to be one when I came back to Africa. But he said that the guardian was the sun and the hands were the moons to his sun, and the auxiliary board members were satellites circling around the hands. And that the faith of God would go so rapidly and be filled with such power that in the future, the auxiliary board members would have to have their own satellites circling around them. And every time I see an assistant, I remember that. To me, that was a prophecy, of course, and that I was present there at the spiritual birth of one of the institutions of God, the assistants. And now they are working in that same industrious way under the Universal House of Justice and the counselors, the International Teaching Center, the auxiliary board members, and of course their assistants. So that gives you a bit of a picture on some of these institutions, but it's only one drop from the Mississippi River, or one leaf from all the forests of trees in North America. And still, it's only the beginning of this wondrous story. We want now to talk to you more about this kingdom of God on earth, and especially about about the house of worship. This, the one in Wilmette, Illinois, as you know, is the holiest house of worship that will ever be raised to the name of Bahá'u'lláh, ever. Let me just read again to you from God Passes By, page 351. It says, this mighty structure, the house of worship, will be renowned throughout the world. It will mark the inception of the kingdom of God on earth. This temple shall be built, and it will be to the spirit and body of the world what the inrush of spirit is to the physical body of mankind. Body and soul, right? Together. Quickening it, the world, to its uttermost parts, and infusing a new light and power, and marks the inception of the kingdom of God on earth. Thousands of mashriq al-azkars, holy houses of worship, will be raised throughout the world, east and west. But this one that we have here, this one, because it is the first in the Occident, has great importance. It will be the model for coming centuries and will hold the station of mother. So you see, and one of the most wonderful things when you think about this house of justice, Master said that when it was dedicated to public worship, it would mark the inception of the kingdom of God on earth. You see, Marguerite and I were there. We had the joy of being in that house of worship when it was dedicated, see. And imagine how exciting that is. We should all wipe away tears of joy and happiness when we think about it. All ours, free and without a price. It was in 1953, and Marguerite and I were on our way to Africa, and we were there for that great conference, international conference. And that means that for over 30 years, in the midst of this rising kingdom of God on earth, you and I have been participating, because the inception of the kingdom of God on earth is there already, just the very beginning, but it's alive, and we're a part of it. Isn't that exciting, really? Well, I can't finish without talking about this whole thing around the temple with the dependencies and those around the Hazrat al-Quds. Home for the orphans. Never again will there ever be in this world a child unwanted, abandoned, and forgotten. That child will be the charge of the local assembly and the community, and they will love it and cherish it in such a way as that people will weep with happiness. Home for the aged, one already a prototype in action, and is built around this house of worship in Wilmette. No more old people, right? As you read about all the time in their rocking chairs on the porch, also forgotten. They will be honored, and the contribution they have made to our society will become important, and they will feel that because of the Baha'is, right? Schools where the universities, colleges, where the people can be educated, and if the child hasn't the resources or the family, this kingdom of God on earth will see that they get the education. Hospitals, so the ill can be healed and the maimed helped, and everybody put back to work as long as they can. That's all around it. And then the main Hazrat al-Quds, what a wonderful word. I wonder if we know how exciting that is to it. It means in English, the sacred fold. And Bahá'u'lláh is the Lord of the one fold and the one shepherd. He is the great shepherd of all mankind. And every center that he has on the planet, whether it's local or national, is called Hazrat al-Quds, the sacred fold. And that's where we, the sheep of God, go and are gathered together in safety, and where we help the whole planet by these institutions. They will gather at dawn to pray, and then they will go out there into the institutions, all of these, to work for the welfare of man. It will be in every city, every town, every village, every hamlet, every reserve all over the planet. We're building it now. It has already started. Hazrat al-Quds have great significance because I've moved it down here to the center. You see the assembly hall, the pilgrims' hostel, the publishing trust, treasury, council chamber, secretariat, library, archives, all around, all also in closeness to the proximity of the house of worship. There they will go and pray to Bahá'u'lláh and to all the great messengers of God and to God himself. They will come back and they will labor here for the kingdom of God on earth. Body and soul, spirit and life. And what a wonderful, exciting thing again. And never again, if you've been reading the news, watching television, magazines, newspapers, never again will there ever be such a thing in tragedy as we have in Africa with the starvation of all of those things. The whole kingdom of God on earth will arise like a tidal wave in those coming days when this has been established with all of its powers in the world, and it will never happen again. It will be quenched and stopped. There will never be such suffering. And there will never be another way to stop it. It will come again, and it will come again until the kingdom of God has arisen and that spirit is dominating the world. What will all this lead to? I think that we should know that what beloved Guardian, when he started the 10-year crusade, he wrote about it, and I'm just going to choose a couple of excerpts. It's from volume 12, 1950-1954, page 137 to 138. This about the 10 processes leading to the coming of the golden age. Listen to these words. Finally, the 10th part of this process, the penetration of the light of Bahá'u'lláh in the course of numerous crusades and successive epochs of both the formative and the golden ages of the faith. It will penetrate into all the remaining territories of the globe. And everything we've seen here will be every place, as I said in those days. It will penetrate to all the remaining territories of the globe through the erection of the entire machinery of Bahá'u'llah's administrative order, the entire machinery, both in the east and in the west. And the stage at which the light of God's triumphant faith, shining in all its power and glory, will have suffused and enveloped the entire planet. That is what all these crusades are about. And we're next year going to start another one, right? 6-year plan that will carry us to the anniversary of Baha'u'llah's ascension. But we still have a lot of work right now. Lastly, from the beloved Guardian, this will be a stage which in the fullness of time, will culminate in the establishment of the World Baha'i Commonwealth, functioning in the plenitude of its powers, and which will signalize the long-awaited advent of the Christ-promised kingdom of God on earth. The kingdom of Bahá'u'lláh, mirroring, however faintly upon this humble handful of dust, the glories of the Abha kingdom. This final and crowning stage in the evolution of the plan of God himself, for humanity, will in turn prove to be the signal for the birth of a world civilization incomparable in its range, its character, and potency in the history of mankind. A civilization which posterity with one voice will acclaim as the fairest fruit of the golden age of the dispensation of Bahá'u'lláh, and whose rich harvest will be garnered during future dispensations of other manifestations of God, destined to succeed one another in the course of the 5,000 century Baha'i cycle. I wanted you to see where that 500,000 years came from. Master talked about it. Kingdom of God on earth, Christ promised kingdom of God on earth. So, I told you it's going to be fantastic. That really ought to be worth something, hadn't it, right? I mean, do you know anybody, tell me honestly, do you know anybody who thinks they have everything like that? I mean, oh yes, I mean those who think they have everything, but do you know anybody except your Baha'i friends who is such a possessor? We have those who think they have, who are living in the kingdom of no God on earth and materialistic kingdom, but I just wanted to show you about. He says, divine promise, there is no refuge in the world today except the cause of Bahá'u'lláh. The believers must rest assured that having the faith, they have everything. Without it, they have nothing. More yet, here's the tablets of Bahá'u'lláh that I'm reading from, page 169. He says the same thing, the Blessed Beauty. He that hath me not is bereft of all things. Turn ye away, he says to us his followers. Turn ye away from all that is on earth and seek none else but me. I am the sun of wisdom and the ocean of knowledge. I cheer the faint and revive the dead. I am the guiding light that illumineth the way. I am the royal falcon on the arm of the Almighty. I unfold the drooping wings of every broken bird and start it on its flight. We're hoping that that's the flight that we're going to make. So if you have all of this, see, and those who don't have it have nothing. I just like to well, let's even go back further. I brought the Bible along. I'm going to read from the book of Revelation, see, because these pages, these few very brief lines I'm going to read, these were written about people who said they had everything, right, and had no need of anything else, right? And they've squandered their resources on the thing that perishes, as it says. This is the one we don't want to be, and we have the chance to be among the true believers. This is book of Revelation, chapter 3. I know thy works, that thou hast a name that thou livest, and art dead. Why? Because thou sayest, I am rich, and increased with goods, and have need of nothing. And knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. They think they have everything, but without the Spirit, of course, they have nothing. And it says, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Well, beloved friends, in this faith of ours, you're married free, you're buried free, you have the love, advice, guidance, free and without a price. From all of the institutions you've looked at, from 5 separate sources of divine infallibility, from the house of justice, the guardianship, and on and on and on. Free and without a price. Certainly ought to be worth some sacrifice. And now I'd like you to see just what it is you really do have. You know, this kingdom of God on earth I've been showing you little by little. I'd like to have you see it all at one time. Then we'll have just a little different view of it. I guess I don't need my pointer. There we are. Now we see it all together, and it really is something, isn't it? Only the beginning, only the inception, and only a chart. It's ashes, ashes compared to what the faith really is. This is Marguerite, the lady with the robin's egg blue eyes, Mrs. Sears. I asked her to come along because she's going to become a very important part in your life. And in the next minute, minute and a half, she's going to show you why you can be among those chosen to raise up this kingdom of God on earth. Okay? Marguerite?
From Bob, any one follower of this faith can, by the leave of God, prevail over all who dwell in heaven and earth.
Only one.
Bahá'u'lláh, he that summoneth men in my name is verily of me, and he will show forth that which is beyond the power of all that are on earth.
All.
Abdul-Baha, in this century of the latter times, Bahá'u'lláh has appeared and so resuscitated spirits that they have manifested powers more than human.
More than human. Memorize. That's you.
Shoghi Effendi, we can truly say that this cause is a cause that enables people to achieve the impossible. Universal House of Justice, however hopeless the prospect may seem, Bahá'u'lláh will reinforce them with his hosts and will open the doors of victory before them.
Thank you, Marguerite. That's you, the potential you that he's talking about. I want to have a little thing between us. See? That was Marguerite Sears, my spiritual mother. Real spiritual everything without portfolio in all the walks of my life. I went pioneering with her 3 times, once before I was a Baha'i, and the last time in another continent. And she sent me on pilgrimage on her own resources. So where would I be without her? Also, she made the chart for me, right? Well, incidentally, in 3 years, if all goes well, we're going to celebrate our golden wedding anniversary, and you're invited. But provided that you give along with your airplane ticket, you give the equivalent amount to the fund, or your bus ticket, or your train ticket, or whatever, your gas. That'll make it really a golden wedding anniversary. That's a secret just between us, by the way. All right. There's a little more about you. I can't leave without sharing 1 or 2 more things about, how wonderful you are. Actually, because this is our potential, see, that the Guardian is talking to. He says here, such is the station ordained for the true believer, that if to an extent smaller than a needle's eye, the glory of that station were to be unveiled to mankind, every beholder would be consumed away in his longing to attain it. Can you imagine that, right? If the veil be lifted and the full glory of that station of those who have turned to God and served this kingdom of God on earth, in their love for him, if they renounce the world, it will be so great that the entire creation would be dumbfounded if the veil were lifted. And you know the part about, peeking through the eye of a needle. I was going to bring a needle along, but it's so small I couldn't even find it. So you can imagine what they'd see about your life. But so great, it would cause the sands of the earth to dye red with the blood of those who long to attain it. And it says in our faith that the letters of the living are 10,000 times greater than the apostles of old. So I think that tells you a lot about your station. Still more about you. In here it says that you, the true believer, have a station equal to that of the prophets of Israel of old, who were not manifestations of God. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. Isn't that marvelous? You have that potential. And then probably the greatest and the most wonderful of all on page 141 of the Gleanings. It says about you, the potential you, how superior must be the destiny. How superior must be the destiny of the true believer, whose existence and life are to be regarded as the originating purpose of all mankind. For you are the ones who transform the world and bring back the kingdom of God on earth. Just think of it, how wonderful that is. Well, beloved friends, we're coming to the end. I hope your response to what we've been talking about here in this great and glorious cause of God, your response to it, the response you make personally, will turn the eyes of your treasurer into teacup saucers when he gets the news of your contributions. That'll be good, won't it? But what really will please me, if that treasurer calls me up in the middle of the night, so excited, I can't understand the word he says. And he says, "Hey, Bill, you'll never believe it." Of course, I will believe it because I know you better than the treasurer does. Okay. So in an outburst of ecstasy, as I calmly say, "What's new?" he'll say, "Contributions." I mean, really, personal checks, cash, traveler's checks, stocks and bonds, old money boxes with dust on them, coins, watches, bracelet, rings, an antique car. I mean, you name it, Bill, and I'm receiving it. Wouldn't that be great? I hope yours will be among them. By the way, about the antique car, keep it. It'll be worth a lot more in a few years, and then you can do it. Treasurer will say to me, he says, "Bill, I don't know what you're saying to the friends and telling them, but something's on the move across the country." Of course it is. It's spirit. It's all what we've been talking about. If it's there, then look out, right? And what I really want the treasurer to do, he says, "I don't know, Bill, but boy, something's happening. I think we're going to kick old man deficit out the window for good," right? I think we will. And I hope that as a result of our time together, that from this moment on, the word deficit is a word removed forever from the Baha'i lexicon. That would be wonderful, wasn't it? And then what I'll do is I'll tell the treasurer to go and get the tape himself and listen to it. I mean, why shouldn't all the treasurers, both local and national, also make a far bigger contribution every 19 days, you know, regularly? Vie with each other. I didn't say that. Bahá'u'lláh said that. Well, I did say that about the treasurer. Well, anyway, the rest is up to you, dear friend. We hope that you've fallen in love all over again with this glorious faith of ours, and that the like of which mortal eyes have never seen. I must have said that several times. It's in all of our writings. No man can conceive it, but you and I, we've seen it, right? And I'll tell you something else. If ever the Baha'i world together falls in love, as we've been saying here, you and I, with this world-healing, world-redeeming faith, all at one time, in universal participation, look out, world. Here comes the kingdom of God on earth. May your own inspiring personal sacrifice set all other hearts on fire too. So, Bahá'u'lláh, right? He it is who holds our hearts and our lives in his tender, loving hands. I love you very much. Please remember me in your prayers.